All right, let's dive right into this incredibly fascinating explainer. We're going to break down exactly how a US naval blockade has triggered a massive, multi-front economic crisis in Iran. We'll be relying entirely on the data and source analysis to understand the stakes of a situation that is unfolding with astonishing speed. You know, for decades, the conventional narrative has been that external pressure couldn't truly break the Islamic Republic. Not embargoes, not sanctions, not international resolutions. But according to the sources, in the space of just 18 days, this blockade found the one pressure point there was absolutely no answer for: the oil. It is the singular, vital source of revenue that funds basically everything else in their system, and we're going to look at exactly how it's breaking down.
And that brings us to what is probably the most urgent number in global energy right now. According to satellite data from the maritime intelligence firm Kepler, 12 to 22 is the exact number of days Iran has left before its unused crude oil storage capacity is completely 100% full. Now, this isn't just a guess, and it's certainly not some alarmist projection. Kepler actually uses direct satellite visibility to monitor the real-time fill levels of tanks and loading data at Iranian ports. The tankers are blocked, the storage is filling up incredibly fast, the wells are still pumping, and we are quite literally watching a countdown timer on a massive economic engine.
To understand why that storage is filling so fast, just look at this immediate physical crisis. Back in March, Iran was comfortably exporting 1.85 million barrels of crude oil per day. But after the blockade began in April, that volume just plummeted to roughly 567,000 barrels. That is a devastating 70% collapse in volume, almost overnight. And because the oil is still flowing from wells into a storage infrastructure that was never, ever designed to be a permanent depot, the whole system is rapidly seizing up. In fact, according to Goldman Sachs, 2.5 million barrels of daily production have already been curtailed, just to try and manage this incredible overflow.
Okay, moving right along to Section 1, permanent damage to wells.
The underlying petroleum engineering concept here is what makes this crisis so permanent. It's a process called water coning. You see, the blockade isn't just causing a temporary pause in operations. The sources show it is fundamentally altering the geology of Iran's oil reserves. When producing wells are forced into emergency shut-ins rather than planned, careful operational procedures, the reservoir dynamics literally change. The underground water table, which was previously held down by the natural reservoir pressure, actually migrates upward into the producing oil zone. Think of it kind of like water permanently seeping into the foundation of a house. This is an irreversible degradation. No diplomatic treaty signed in a fancy hotel somewhere can magically fix underground geology.
To put some concrete numbers to that physical damage, the Foundation for Defense of Democracies estimates this water coning will cause a permanent production loss of 300,000 to 500,000 barrels per day. That translates to subtracting roughly $9 to $15 billion from Iran's revenue every single year moving forward. So the huge takeaway here is that the damage accumulating underground right now cannot be undone. It is permanently subtracted from whatever Iran's post-conflict economy eventually looks like.
Which leads us to Section 2, the geopolitical trade pivot.
This physical infrastructure crisis is actually triggering a massive geopolitical realignment across the whole region. On the left side of the analysis, we see Chabahar Port in Iran. This was supposed to be their ultimate plan B to safely bypass the Strait of Hormuz, a port that India spent years and significant capital developing. But today, because the US Navy is enforcing its blockade everywhere from the Gulf of Oman to the Arabian Sea, Chabahar is basically a giant parking lot with over 20 stranded vessels. India has completely stalled its investment there and pivoted. And the direct result of that pivot? The UAE's Fujairah pipeline. This is an inland pipeline that bypasses Hormuz entirely, and exports flowing through there have surged an incredible 57%.
And that strategic pivot leads perfectly to this remarkably bold statement from UAE Energy Minister Suhail al-Mazroui. He literally said it out loud. The timing is right because the Strait of Hormuz is closed. This statement actually accompanied the UAE's shock decision to exit OPEC. Our sources note they executed this move specifically because the Hormuz closure neutralized Iran, their primary regional competitor. With their Fujairah pipeline running at near capacity, the UAE essentially freed itself from quotas and can now pump up to an additional 1 million barrels per day, totally independent of any multilateral agreements.
So, what does this actually mean for the global balance? Well, with the UAE leaving to maximize its own market position, OPEC's share of global supply has dropped from 30% down to 26%. And why is that absolutely crucial for Iran? Because Iran desperately relied on OPEC's production discipline to keep global oil prices high. When global prices are high, selling sanctioned oil at a heavy discount still generates some really meaningful cash. But with the UAE pumping way more oil, prices face massive downward pressure right as Iran's export volume has crashed. It's the very definition of a catastrophic two-front loss.
Let's turn to Section 3, the proxy financial collapse.
Looking at the immediate regional fallout of that lost money, a White House official confirmed to CNBC that the blockade is costing Tehran $500 million every single day. Let that sink in, $500 million a day.
That equates to roughly $15 billion a month just vanishing from the ledger. This completely and utterly starves the IRGC's funding networks. They just cannot maintain their payroll, subsidize consumer goods, and fund their missile programs simultaneously on revenues that have suddenly dropped 70% from levels that were already heavily constrained by previous sanctions.
The on-the-ground operational impact of this is dismantling an entire international network of proxy forces. The source analysis breaks it down. Hezbollah has actually reached the point of being unable to pay regular salaries, which is an unprecedented situation for the group. The Houthis down in Yemen are operating on severely depleted drone stockpiles with no confirmed resupply coming in from Tehran. And Iraqi Shia militias have had to pull back from field operations entirely due to a total lack of funding arriving to sustain them. This economic chokehold is achieving, without direct military action on the proxies themselves, what decades of policies really could not.
The physical expression of this desperate economic reality is embodied in a ship called the Nasha. According to the data, this is a 30-year-old scrapped vessel that was literally pulled from a shipbreaker's yard in Bangladesh. It was brought back into service solely to act as floating oil storage because they have absolutely nowhere else to put their unsellable crude. When a country has to resort to using scrapyard ships for its primary export commodity, there really is no diplomatic euphemism available to soften how dire the situation has become.
And finally, Section 4, Internal Crisis and Scenarios.
Looking inward at the domestic situation, this massive economic pressure is accelerating toward a breaking point for the general population. Unrest is inevitable, only its timing is uncertain. This is a deeply chilling assessment leaked to Iran International. But what's absolutely crucial to note here is who wrote it. This isn't a quote from some outside opposition group or a foreign intelligence agency. This is a leaked internal document from the regime's own Supreme National Security Council. Their own security apparatus is putting into cold official language that the social contract is dissolving as the economy buckles.
Look at how these timelines are all colliding right now. It shows an economy suffocating in real time. We have the 12 to 22 days before oil storage reaches maximum capacity. Then, according to those exact same internal security leaks, the regime estimates it has a maximum of 6 to 8 weeks that it can withstand the blockade before widespread unrest hits. And exacerbating all of this is a 62-day ongoing internet shutdown. This blackout was imposed as a security measure, but it has completely decimated the livelihoods of 90 million disconnected citizens, effectively destroying the digital economy that young Iranians built specifically to survive the sanctions era. The human scale of this crisis is just staggering. Take a look at these domestic indicators. For energy rationing, President Pezeshkian actually had to go on state television and beg citizens to use 2 lights instead of 10, while government offices are being forced to run on half schedules just to save power. As for essential goods, imported medicine prices are up 60%, and lines for basic bread, meat, and milk are growing in major cities that haven't seen desperate queues like this since the grueling days of the 1980s. And in the private sector, there's an anticipated 2 million jobs expected to be lost by the end of spring. The everyday pressure on ordinary citizens is immense. So, with a silent supreme leader and global markets pricing Brent crude currently above $110 a barrel, the source analysis suggests only 3 drastic paths really remain to resolve this gridlock. 1. Iran backs down and agrees to a comprehensive nuclear deal. 2. The internal timeline expires, leading to massive regime unrest and potential dissolution. Or 3. A third phase of military escalation directed straight at infrastructure. And the reality is, none of these offer a clean or simple outcome for the global economy.
Which brings us to the big question. The countdown we started with is not a metaphor. It is ticking down right now, 1 barrel at a time. When those 12 to 22 days of remaining storage capacity finally run out, which of these 3 explosive scenarios will the pressure ignite first? It leaves us with a pretty profound realization about the fragility of global systems and the sheer unstoppable power of economics. What do you think happens when the clock hits 0?